recording session now. Okay, so welcome to today's meeting. We're going to go over the schedule right here. We're going to get some updates of the club, most likely small because there's no real update. We're going to go over the game plan, what we do for this coming work meeting to try to get a better idea of what we work on before we get there. We're going to do an animation workshop to try to get the basics of animation, add some nomenclature to it. We're going to work on do a presentation on the principles of programming, specifically for Unity C#. Going to have it on the projector right there. And then once, if we have free time, we're going to do free time to work on the game, work on other skills we can get further in. Anybody have any questions on the schedule? All right, now I can erase it. Okay, so as I said, there's not much when it comes to updates of the club. No new members, no new oh, actually, we do have something. I completely forgot, and I'm glad I remembered. The board game club wants to do a collaborative effort on May 13th, which would be a Friday. It's either a collaborative effort or just an event where both of our clubs are there. They haven't set up a time, but they wanted to see if we could talk to each other's respective clubs and just come up and brainstorm ideas for either a collaborative effort or just both of us arriving. Does anybody have any time restrictions for that? So it's Fridays, and it's on the 13th. So I can further communicate with them to see if that can work. So, no time restriction, no classes or anything? No? Okay. Then I'll go ahead and put it further, and if anybody has any ideas later on like possible things, because they just play board games and we make things, so I haven't come up with anything so far, but if anyone has any ideas, put them in the chat.
I won't be there on Fridays at 7 p.m. So, like after 7 p.m.
Oh, okay, that's fine with me. I can't stay there until 6 anyways myself, so we can do that. We can definitely do that. Okay, so that's a good thing. So far right now with the game, everyone knows we just have a working prototype where it's just an enemy, a main player right here, just go in different directions and the enemy coming in to do whatever. My game plan will be next to put borders along the wall of where the player can go. Most likely, there's two ways of doing this for me. There's put invisible blocks right there to where the player touches it, they can't go past it. But I kind of don't like that method myself because sometimes what happens is when they hit it, they have like a jittering animation to where they're trying to hit it. And there's ways to go about it. You can do it to where they touch this and they can phase through it if they touch it, but the code says you're touching it, and then you have the code right here tell them that yes, they're touching it, and in the moving animation, they just move that way instead. Now what I want to do, I'll instead do it in a separate way to where it's based upon your coordinates. So if the player is like this X or this Y coordinate, and they try to move left again, it just pushes them that way. So that's probably how I would do it. I'll also make it to where you'll just have regular, like an enemy starts, like a classes of enemies do different bullet things. I hope that if I do this fast enough, like they'll shoot bullets, and we can do another class of enemies of your different ideas, so we can try to have the basics of it. But that's my game plan. And Isaiah, you said you were going to work on beats. Of course, like ideas for sounds. Of course, like I said, try to make it a habit to where we don't work on anything until the work meetings. Like we just shoot ideas and whatnot. Do you have at least ideas of what you want to do? Do you need like help with that or?
I mean, I have ideas. I mean, I can do it after away from these meetings.
Well, okay.
It's not that taxing.
Well, what we try, like the whole thing isn't just for so it's not taxing. It's also so we can all kind of like do it together to where if we can even show each other's process, because if we can all technically do everything apart from here and we don't have to have any meetings at all, but it will feel like that doesn't happen when making games. Everyone comes to an office, everyone works on things together, and it makes it better to where, let's just say you have a piece of music and you show it to everybody, and at that moment people can give their ideas, discussion, and they can also relate it to things they've already been working on as well. Which is like, oh wait, maybe at this point you can change the music to this because that's when the boss appears, and so you'll get that kind of feedback, dynamic feedback to change your thing during the meeting. But as I know for me, I haven't made much music myself, so if it is too much to try to work on music while we're in a meeting, we could talk about that. Maybe we can give a little leeway for you to work outside, but we try to make it a habit of it, to work only during the meetings. Would that be too much to work during the meetings to make music?
I think the best thing for me would be like maybe on Saturdays during our work meetings, I
Mhm.
could try some things because here I don't have like any instruments with me.
Okay, that makes sense. Also, I wanted to discuss that as well. We didn't come up with a concrete time for the work meetings. I know you said you want to do later. So would 5 to 8 work?
Yes.
Would that work for you? 5 to 8 Saturday? Okay. I think Stephanie said it would be okay too. So I'll put that as a reminder and the time for it. All right. So
What, 5 to 8 on Saturdays?
on Saturdays, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that one.
Okay, cool. You got that, and so do you have an idea what you're going to work on next for the work meeting, or do you need like
I'd like some direction.
Okay. Definitely what we could do next is you could start working on some, if you don't have any more enemy ideas, like you could try to come up with more, and
Like 2 more.
okay, so come up with those, and then next do some level design. Since this is a shmup, you're just going to be designing waves of enemies. Like let's say the first wave is just like 3 enemies coming from the left that way, and then maybe the second wave will be like just these are like basic enemies to just shoot, and then the second wave would be two basic, and then a ruler to come in.
Where's the enemy's AI gonna be? Like, are they gonna follow the player or just stand there?
Well, most likely, it depends what you want. And it depends what your goal is for the core design. Because like I said, with the 2 type of shmups examples I gave, there's Raiden, to where your main goal is to get to the end, get to like the boss at the end, and survive. And so all the enemies that do come at you, they don't want to just come and leave. They want to stay there and be a nuisance to you, constantly firing bullets. And if more enemies come, there's going to be way more bullets. So your goal is to kill them all, anything that comes up. So they are going to stay. They can do different things. They can like move back and forth and whatnot, but their goal is to stay so they can kill you. In games like Galaga, your goal is to get as many points as possible. And so the enemy's goal is to come in and leave. It depends what the goal is, and it seems like the goal is, for our game, is to enemies to come and kill you. There are special enemies you can make to where they'll have power-ups. Of course, shmups, like Raiden had it, to where you kill a specific enemy or a specific item, and it blows up, has like a power-up, you grab it, and then you shoot more bullets.
Yeah, I was thinking about what maybe a secondary button would do.
Raiden definitely has, like all these games, Pocky and Rocky, Raiden, all these shmups have a area destroying effect.
Yeah, I was thinking for that one, what if you had a stapler remover? Because like a stapler remover looks like a mouth, so it could just come over and like that.
Okay, you just summon a giant staple remover, and it's like an area effect thing that just like wipes out all the enemies in the screen.
Yeah, in like a straight line sort, like what the highlighter does, but for you.
Okay, you fire a staple remover.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can see that. And maybe what you can do to give it a good effect is that it's like you could just make it either go fast to like have a strong hit like directly, or you can make it go slow to where it starts anything it touches, it has like a refresh event. So like bam, 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 bam.
Yeah, exactly.
So okay, and that'll be good. That'll be have a lot of utility for bigger enemies. Like you have a big enemy, you want to do as much damage as you can. You just fire that thing and it just hits it multiple times. That'll be good. Okay, keep that in mind. All right. So you got plenty of to do for that. Anybody else got any?
How many levels do you think there should be?
Well, we're just going to make the prototype level first, and just get that working.
Okay.
If we get a good working prototype that functions properly and doesn't break every 5 seconds, then we'll start adding levels.
Okay, so it'll just be like a few enemies for the first level.
The first level, yes. For the prototype, we'll just give it all we got.
All the enemies.
All the enemies, because the prototype is just supposed to be a showcase of what this game is going to be about. And with a prototype, you want to throw as many concepts as possible.
So is it possible to make it so that the highlighter's beam could also damage the other enemies? Like it's more neutral? Like it could damage
That
you
could be
here?
something. Utilize the enemy against it.
Because it would like track where you are. So
Yeah.
You could, plan that.
That could be something. You do want to keep in mind that if you have a highlighter enemy that constantly shoots, like it follows you as the ray goes,
Yeah.
then the player could be trapped down here, and they could, as they try
No,
to.
I was just
make-
thinking it tracks you and then stops. And
Okay,
then jumps.
okay, good. We can definitely do
And
that.
maybe it could come from the top too to get some of the other enemies.
What you can also do with that is that the highlighter first tracks, like it moves up and down to be aligned with you,
Yeah.
and then it stays where it and then it angles, so you can see.
Oh, and then it goes like
yes,
this.
yes.
Okay, yeah, that
So you can strategically plan like where you want to place the highlighter. And that'll be good, like to say you have a big bulky enemy that you know is going to be troublesome, and you see the highlighter, I'm going to use you. That could be fun.
Yeah. So for that, the highlighter would need to be like could be on any corner, you know, because it would be most useful if it was behind you, right?
It could be, yeah. You could try to make that happen, especially when we already have the inking enemy that does come out of multiple directions. So we could have that. Yeah, that could probably be an idea. Anything else you want to shoot off? Any other things anybody wanted to talk about before we go further?
I think I wrote down some notes.
All right.
This one really I'm not sure about. Is it
Okay.
possible to make it so that the boss flips it so now you have to go up instead of to the right, you have to travel?
Yeah, totally. We could just change, like, so you're saying because the level constantly moves that way?
Like, yeah, it would be like, I think it'd be a cool, like, change to be like, oh, wow, this boss is really strong. It made me have to move a different direction now.
Okay, that could be something. There are SHMUPs I've seen to where at first the level just moves moves this way, just constantly, and then when you come up with a boss, it becomes like omnidirectional.
Yeah.
To where you're just like where you shoot. Of course, that you would have to establish way more rules on that before you do that, but that's just more further ideas of what it could be. And even if the gameplay doesn't change as the direction changes, it just feels more dramatic if the level can move in different directions during a boss fight. So that could be something. Anything else?
Okay, so what if the boss had an ability that inverted your controls for a few seconds?
That could be something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all my ideas.
Okay, cool. Make sure, you have that all written down, I'm guessing?
Yeah.
Okay, good. We'll do our best to try to put that into the game. I'm going to make sure I code all the very, very core stuff first before we branch out from that. Because I haven't talked about this, but when it comes to the core of the game, there's like the very, very basics of just making a character move, make an enemy shoot, make an enemy die when you shoot bullets, like all that stuff. And then there's like a secondary core out here of things you're talking about to where once you get the main goals down, you get all the other secondary things. And this would include, like, for instance, on Super Mario Brothers, like fire flowers or or separate kinds of enemies that like a Hammer Bros or something, to where they're not essential for it, but they are further expanding of the idea. So that kind of stuff is definitely out here, but we're basically almost done with here, so it'll be fine. We'll get to that. Okay. Anything else before I move on? All right. Cool. All right. So we're going to start with our first workshop, which is animation. The key principles of animation, especially for games, is how to utilize keyframes. Has anyone heard the term keyframes?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Does anyone know what they are? Keyframes are the most important, most important in between animation to a frame. So we'll just be doing stick animations, so make it as easy as possible. So this would be the first. It would be a walking animation, just that. That's all we would do. The first frame is the first keyframe. The second frame is what it looks like. Actually, I'll go to the last one first. I'm sorry. And then the last keyframe is it, like at the end of its walk cycle. So the second keyframe is the most in between you can make it. So the furthest, like leg extended as far as possible, arm extended as far as possible. That's the first key. That's the next keyframe. And then the important part about this in games, especially sprite animation, usually only gonna have like 3 to 5, but 3 to 5 frames per animation. So we won't go usually won't go any farther than that. But you still want to know the importance of just making in between animation, because we've seen 2D games to where like I played a game called Indivisible, to where they have super smooth animation, but that's because they have like 30 frames in between instead of just 3 frames, it's 30. And the way they do this is they constantly start adding in between frames. So for instance, you ask yourself, okay, what's the in between of that to that? You would make something to where it's like I'm gonna add some joints instead and lift a leg, and this leg is further back. So it's the in between to that. And then what's the in between to this one? It's something probably something very similar. Okay. So this frame right here, and then no, that one is actually would be over here. Actually, no, that would be the exact same thing. Something like that, to where it's back to the resting point. Like, see what I mean? It's in order to get further in between, we would utilize the key in between keyframe. And of course, if we want further, we can make another one. Just like, what would it look like if it's like just a tiny bit, and like so on and so on. We could do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to use these note cards to practice that kind of animation. So everyone take 3, and it doesn't have to be a stick figure. You can draw something else with it too. Probably like you can utilize like a flap of a bird's wings, to where try to keep it simple shapes. Where it's flappiest, and then it's folding of the wing, and then it's furthest down. But of course, what usually happens in animation for programs, it just goes all the way back to this. But for our cards, we want to make sure to have the last one to where it has this one right here. So then it just bop, 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 bop. So go ahead and do that with, I made 4 in this case, but we'll just do 3. 3 of the keyframes for animation. For walking stickman, whatever you want to do. I'll do the bird one myself.
Good ball.
Hmm?
I'm gonna do a ball.
Yeah, you can. A bowling ball. Make sure to show some dictation that it's moving, because if you do a ball and it's just like a circle, how are you going to dictate that the next one of it's rolling? What you can do instead is, how about like a tilting square? Like that could be something. And then the in-between animation would just be like not tilted as much. Like you could do something like that. But if you can make dictation for a circle, I'm thinking of maybe you can add some shading to where the next one, the shading is like over here, or just like a distinction. Like to a characteristic, like a shine or something, to where it looks like it's ball. A bowling ball would be a good example. There we go. Like something like that.
I was
So
gonna do a bouncing ball. Kind of a-
Oh, okay, that's
yeah.
something. Yeah, add some squishing animation too, just like boing, boing. Yeah. So put it at its highest. Like the ground is right here. Put it at its highest, and then the next one is below, and the next one is like up here. Like something like that. Yeah. Very fun. And we're gonna take like a couple minutes to do that. And I'm gonna do my little bird. Try to keep it as close to where the origin is as possible, so that you flip it, it's not going everywhere. And I am going to add one more at the end, just like I did up there. Okay, and if everyone feels good with what they got so far, do what I was suggesting. We're now make an in-between for the between 1 and 2 and 2 and 3. Oh, and make sure that when you're doing it, put at the bottom a little marker that this is frame 1, this is frame 2, so you don't get mixed up. I've had it to where when I was in animation, when I was in school, they forgot to put the numbers down and they dropped all the papers, all like 200 papers, and they didn't label any of them. That fucking sucked. I am going to show it to the camera. Dang it.
Pretty hard to.
To make it flip?
Yeah.
It's okay. I've been trying to like separate them a little bit, just like get them together and then just like make little tiny separations. There we go. Okay, cool. Yeah, can I see? Can I have like a first on?
Yeah, I remember my name.
Cool. That's good. So you got a walking stick man yourself?
So it's not walking, he's jumping.
Oh, he's jumping.
Yeah. But
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I can do my best.
There we go. Cool. Good, good. All right. Yeah, usually it helps if we have paper that is see-through and we can use a light table and whatnot. That I did that in college and it was a trip. Mm-hmm. All right. So, everyone all good?
almost done.
Almost done? Okay, cool. I can work on another in-between frame for fun. Maybe instead, add it a couple of lines. Just to show people what I got, just like boosh. Like. Let me also bring up Okay. All right, we can
Spencer,
go.
what was that game called? Indivisible?
Indivisible, yes. It is a. Ooh, I can even showcase on here to show you what it looks like. Oop, wrong one. Sorry about that, folks. There we go. And display capture. There we go. Indivisible sprite sheet. It's insane. Nope. Maybe they didn't release it. Darn. Nonetheless, the reason why I wanted to go further with this is because what we're doing right now with a lot of what 2D games do is they create what's called a sprite sheet. Has anyone heard of sprite sheets? Or do you have? Okay. Sprite sheets are made up, obviously, of sprites, and they are 2D accumulations of pixels. What sprites are. Let me grab this so I can put it on the Photoshop so it becomes a lot bigger. So a fair example is this, to where usually what they have on these sheets is each frame of animation on the each category for each direction. Like for instance, this is omnidirectional, where it has 8 directions, like up, right, up, like etc., etc. And luckily, with this example, they have only have about like 3 frames, 3 to 4 frames per animation. So not that much. But as you can tell, there's still a lot because they have the different directions and they have the sometimes different separations of the faces, separation of other moving objects. Like the head sometimes does something that's different than the body, like in separate parts. So when you're planning an animation for a 2D animation, first thing you want to do is once you make the first file, like all the separate animations, like we did on our papers, but we do it in like the separate Photoshop files. We want to make a bigger animation, like a bigger sheet, where we store each possible sprite for each possible animation. And so we would take, let's just say this is like the walking animation. So we would take each one of them and place them in order, so that we know, and we can like that one we showcased didn't label it, so we'll go with that. But usually we want to try to label it, and the background color right here needs to be different than any one of these colors. Like so let's just say like each one of these animations is like has a transparent background. All like the characters are right here, and then the background is like has no color, so you can just take it and put it on here. Sometimes there's different styles of how people do this. Like for instance, they put like here, and then like instead of transparent, they have like a pink box instead, separate from the actual background, which is like green or something like that, like green screen. That way, because for people who have to extract the animation, they can just use on Photoshop what's called a wand tool, and what that does is you pick a color and it selects everything of that color, so that you can just delete it and just extract everything out of here pretty easily. But what could happen is, that's why sometimes they put the background color on each one of these animations that's different from the actual background, is that so you just have to click this, delete it, and then just get this square right here instead of messing with all these other colors. So, does anybody have any questions about animation, or do people feel like they got it pretty down? Okay, cool. Nope, that's pretty much it when it comes to animation. I was taught other animation styles, such as tweens and whatnot, but that was all learned in Adobe Flash, and nobody quite, and that's more programmed animation. Like, for instance, if you have a ball and you want it to like bounce over here, instead of doing like each frame of animation of it going over here manually, you would just put it right here, and then you would do a tween to where it would create an arc, and you would just move this arc, and the program would move all of the frames over here with it. There may be program animations out there that help with that do help create that, and that will be easier for like really smooth animations for things that don't change as much. But you want to try to draw it out as much as possible so it looks as nice as possible. And now that's the end of the animation. So now I'll go ahead and turn the projector on again because we're going to go into programming. I hope I can teach something new for people who already know something about programming, but this may be repeat information. So, before I go, anyone no questions about animation so far? Okay, cool. Then I can just go to the next thing. Okay. So there are 3 distinct things that you need to know about programming that I've come to learn that it's very, very incredibly important. There's the logic. And logic of programming is pretty straightforward. It's like if I want to, it's all if this happens then this happens. That's all programming is. Just making parameters and making those things happen through those parameters. Like if I want to walk forward, I put my right foot out, and I can only walk forward if my right foot is out, if it's moved forward, things like that. And it's all about how to get to that point, and every possible contingency of getting to that point. Like that could stop us from getting that point. And an example is in the game we were making right now, to where you have a ship, and if you press the up button, then it makes it so the character moves up. And so when you press up, a contingency of that would be like the example that we had for a possible enemy at the staple. In here you put a contingency. So we have like these 2 blocks of code: up is pressed, move guy. However, what if we want to put that staple enemy? We put a block on here. It would check to see, if staple, then don't go here, don't move the enemy, go here instead. So that's basically the very fundamental logic that we're shooting for. The next thing we want to remember is organization. Even though you are looking at your own code, you're making your own code, and you can understand it, you can read it all and whatnot, and it makes sense to you, it's probably not going to make sense to other people. You could know that blog boolean is you know exactly what that is, but someone's going to look at it like, what the fuck is blog boolean? So your organization and your naming is incredibly important. An example I can give of this, as we can see up here, is organizing your variables based upon their name, their types of variable. So for instance, I have all my public game objects up here, and then if I then I could have all my protected floats down here. And I want to be able to organize that so if I tell people, hey, change this float for something, you can find the floats and you can know where exactly to shoot for. I also, myself, try to organize it based upon if it's public, protected, or private, to also give a better idea, to also further organize it. I'll explain what each of them mean, but it's to help other people, especially someone who's hasn't had coding experience but is doing the technical design. I want to make sure that when you look at it, you can tell what everything is based on its organization. The next thing is, this is a big one, big word. I had to think about it. Compartmentalization. And that just means squeezing the processing power as much as you can. Because you could write code in a lot of ways, and each line of code takes processing power to do. Code goes from the very top all the way to the very down and checks every line. And you can easily fuck up the processing by not condensing the code. Like, for instance, what if you want to check to see if number equals 5? It's like that's what you're trying to do in the end. So, no, if number is greater than or equal to 5. That's the shortest way to do it. Very easy. However, to fuck up the programming, the processing power, you can write this for every possible number, 1 through 10. If it's 1, if it's 2, if it's 3, if it's 4, it still works, but you're asking for 10 times as much processing power just to even do that. And you don't want to do that. You want to make sure even for a small game, might be fine for the beginning, but make it a bigger game, you're going to screw the hell out of that processing power. And so, those are the main things. However, sometimes these things start to conflict with each other. Like, say, for instance, as you can see, I put spaces in between the if-then statements, and that makes it so it's easier to read. So you don't have to get this condensed, squished code, even though it would save processing power if it's squished. The reason, you don't squish it until the very end. And most auto-formatting programs do squish it down. So my advice is to keep it separate. So if you're doing it, you can easily look through it instead of having, like I said, to squish it down. So does anybody have any questions on basic programming here so far? Alrighty. So we are going to next look over some basic writings of code. Basic writing of basic processes of code. We'll go with the process first. As I've said, programming starts at the very top. It goes 2, 3, etc., etc., etc. So at the very top. And at the very top of the code you see right there, using. Every code I've seen so far has asked for what tools it can use from its derivative program. So it's, in this case, Unity. And in this case, collection is just the ability to take certain things, ask for certain things from Unity. Like, for instance, the game object, its position, its transformation properties, such as where it is, what scale it is, what rotation it is. That's the basic tool set for the system collection. The very top will always have that, and you could technically put every single possibility, or every tool, just ask it for everything, but that would be so much. That would be 20, 30 lines of the code holding all of these tools that's never going to use. You don't want to do that. So once it goes through that, it goes through the first line. It's class. And that's basically its classification. You want to name it to where you know what this classification is going to do. Like in my case, main character script. Unfortunately, I don't remember exactly why, but when you're naming things, if it's going to have two different words to it, you want to make sure the first one is lowercase and the next one is uppercase. I don't remember. I would have to ask my programming teacher or any programming teacher to know why, but that's usually the case. And then if it's the only word, then have it uppercase. Like I said, for my naming of like bullet and speed. So now we got the we'll put class right here, and then we'll put tools. Oh crap! Give me 1 sec. I completely forgot to put the display capture for the people up here. That's fine. So now we got tools, and now we got class. We're gonna go to the next bunch of things. Is where you want to put, and I'm gonna put a space because that's usually what I do. Is all of your possible variables. And variables are just stored where you store all of your information. And there are 4 to 5 types of variables. There's ints. And ints are any whole numbers. It's like 1, 2, 3, etc., etc. They can only store whole numbers. And you want to use this for anything like HP or stats and whatnot. That doesn't have decimals. If you do want decimals, you go with floats. And like whole and decimal. So like 3.5, and in this case you want to put F at the end to dictate that it's a float, 4.6, etc. So that's obviously for if you want, like for instance, I did that for speed up there in order to get very like a small move, because every frame it's going to go through this, and if you make it one every frame, the player's just going to whoosh, go super fast. Yeah, you don't want that. So that's that. Next is Booleans. Booleans, I'll write one out. Make sure we got that situated. Booleans are on and off statements. This bool equals. They're switches. It's much like a train, to where you have this, and then it checks to see where if something is on or off, and then if it's on, it gets this way, off, it goes this way. Basically what it's for. Unity has already stored in Boolean things, such as if you press this button or not, it has it already dictates what's a Boolean inside it. But that's pretty much what it's for. And next, we got strings. These are basically text and character storage. So these are a little tricky, as in when to utilize them for some people, because let's just say you want to check which screen you're on, like a title screen or a menu screen, so just in case you press a button, it does something different on those screens. And you can store an int. It's like you can remember in your head, title screen is 0, option screen is 1. You can do that, but that starts getting a little confusing, because like by the time you get to like level 10, you're int 12, and you're just like you're hoping to remember. That's what strings are for. Strings you could just put anything in. So in this case, I'll put a string. I'll call it. I usually call it string status, and at the beginning would be, you have to put quotes. The beginning would be a title screen. That way you can dictate very easily communicate something through straight text. Very useful. Next, this isn't technically like a separate variable, but it's what you can make each variable. They're called arrays. Arrays are lists of things. So let's just say you want to check the enemy's HP. Let's just say, I'll put it down. So at protected int, and you have to put brackets right there, enemy HP. So what this does is that I have like a list of separate ints that are like, let's just say like there's 5 enemies on the field. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they all have their own HP. And so in each of the spots, we're going to call it, we're going to put 5 spots. So P and then 0, because it starts off with 0, we store this enemy's HP. And then this but 1, we store this enemy's HP, and so on and so forth, so that everything is, like I said, compartmentalization. Everything is stored into this one variable, so that we don't have to write 5 separate variables for them. That's what arrays are for. So now that we got arrays, variables down, there are separate ones, special ones that are just not universal. Like for instance, you see right there we have a game object, and there's multiple kinds of, and that just stores like a little game object such as main character, sprite that has all this information such as its transform, its what script it has, like whatnot. As I'll show on Unity, main character, the game object itself has its transform, it has its sprite renderer, it has its script right here. So that's what's stored inside the game object variable. But like I said, this is only in Unity, so there's specific class of variables that are only in Unity. I don't want to quite teach it at this moment. So the next thing it usually goes about in Unity is its first function. And now, has anyone learned functions inside math? Like in calculus and whatnot? So it would look something like this. F of x equals 5x plus 5. And then what if, like what would f of x2 equal? And you just plug in 2 right here, right? Like functions are, in coding, are kind of similar. However, most of the time when you're writing a function, that function example right there was bringing about a integer if it was 2. Like you would pull out the number, the resulting number. However, most functions, when you're starting out in Unity, don't bring out a number. They're what's called void. When you're writing a function, you want to first dictate if it's going to bring a resulting number or not. So you put void, and then in this case, Unity always has 2 functions at the beginning. Its start function, when the game object is put onto the field, or the script is put onto the field, let's say an empty game object, but you just had the script. It starts right here, and that's where you would put things like, for instance, at the very start of the game, you would bring about the title screen, bring about start the music. That's where you would start whatever you need to start at the beginning of the code. Now, the next line is updating, and that is like starts every single time it goes through this line. Every frame it goes through, and it automatically goes into this update function. And so if you're thinking of how coding works, let's close this off so it looks pretty similar. 10, 11, update. The first time it exists, it's going to grab all the tools, it's going to ask what class it is, it's going to grab all the variables, dictations that it needs. It's going to ask, is this the beginning of the start of this code's creation? If yes, it'll go through this start function, and then every other time, including this one, it'll go through the update function and check to see if anything in here needs to be done. Like for instance, in this code, it says if you press the key, and if it's the up key or the W key, then it goes into here. So now that we got that, everything after here starts to be up to you, what you put down here. And it starts getting into that organization process. What I usually do, in my case, is that I put all of the functions that change things up above the update functions. Let's just say you want to this is the main character. You got hit with a bullet, and you want to make their HP go down. You put a function up here that says function. Oh, you don't have to write function. Void HP down. And in here you put HP minus equal 2. So like when you get hit with a bullet, it goes into here, minus equal 2. So, oh, I apologize. I forgot something when writing variables, but it also goes into functions as well. As you see, there is protected on there. Each variable, including functions, have a privacy declaration you want to put. There's 3 types. There are public, there's private, and then there's protected. And just want to say, if anybody has any questions, go ahead and let me know. I can try my best to answer them. So, public, what that means is that any other script that's not this one can access that information and change it. Let's just say if you don't want to write a function to change the HP of the character if they get hit with a bullet, then instead of you have a main character script and then you have like the bullet script and so in here the bullet hits the enemy, and instead of asking for a function to have the HP change in here, you instead, the bullet asks for the variable, and this script says, okay, here's the information of the variable, and in here we change the HP. So because of the privacy, it's public. What the problem with, and most people think, sweet, that means I could just make everything public, and so we could just we can access anytime, we don't have to bother with privacy. The unfortunate side effect of that is, what if you have 2 scripts? You have main character and enemy. They both have a public variable called HP. And already you could have a possible problem. If you somehow, and since this is simple, it's really hard to do this, but if you somehow want to change the main character's HP, but you accidentally write enemy instead, because they're both public, it's gonna access it, it's gonna change it, and then you dictated the wrong one, and it screws up the program now because you're supposed to access and change the main character's HP instead of the enemy HP. And although that's really hard to do for a small project, when it gets really big, it's really easy to fuck up that way. So that's why you want to instead make it protected and private. And what this means, private to be exact, means that you can see it on Unity. As you can see right here, we have the bullet. That is a public game object that you can see on the Unity hub. In private, you can still see it, but you can't change it at all. You can only see it. Protected means you can't see it at all. So both private and protected means no other script can attach it. Just private you can see it, protected you can't see it. So let's say you do want another script to access the information, but you don't want it to have the ability to change it. A way to do it is what I would put down here. They're called get functions. And what those do is that, like I talked about in the functions for math, this is what it would do. So we'll have this one would be public. We'll put public void get HP. Oh, not void. We're going to call it int because it's grabbing the it's going to have a resulting variable at the end. So in here, it will put return HP. And of course, that's what the variable would be called up here. Protected int HP equals like 10. And so what they will do is that if another script wants to be like, hey, bullet, say like, hey, I want your HP, and then it will do it in the form of a function. It will be like, okay, let me show you what the HP is, but it's not going to change it. It's going to show you just like, hey, it's 10 right now, but you can't change it. And then that makes it so bullet can do something like that. In this case, we can make it so like, if the result, you can ask bullet inside there, if the result is going to be that your HP is going to be 0 when I hit you, or if it's like, maybe, let's just say we have a difficulty curve where the highlighter is, if your HP is really high, it does like a big beam instead of a small beam. So that's what the get function would do. You wouldn't change the HP, you would just like see it to see if the result is a different number so we could do a different effect. That way we can keep it private, we don't screw up any variables, we can keep it smooth.
I have a question.
Yeah, what's up?
Is there a way we can make it so that if the ruler is low on HP, it gets smaller?
Oh yeah, totally. Like the way to write that would be inside of the update function of the ruler itself. So it would constantly check its HP, and what we can also do to accompany that is down here we can have like the public void HP down, and in here it brings down the HP, and then it does an if then statement. If your HP is at this point, then shrink it down. Yeah, it shouldn't be too hard. Oh, what other? I'm sure there's other things. Anybody have any questions so far? Yep.
So, in which script, the main or the enemy, would you change the HP when the player gets hit?
So that is determinant on how many, you have to think of possible points of failure. Like I talked about how if you make your HP variables public, then to be able to both, for instance, you have, let's say you have 3 scripts. You have bullet, enemy, and main character. So both of them, all 3 of them have, an enemy and main character have HP as a variable. So if we make them both public, we can technically change it in here. It's possible to do that. However, like I talked about how it could have a problem in bigger constructions of code, if we make them both public, that means there's a possibility that one could get affected that we don't want, or both could get affected based upon, let's just say we put them all in an array, and we don't realize it until later on. So a way you can do it is you would, in this case, you would, in here it would dictate it if you hit the main character. So this would go into here and say, hey, I hit you, put in the function of your HP going down. And so in here would be the function of your HP going down. It would, in the end, go into the main character. And also, bullet would have a function to where if a bullet hits the enemy. And so, in this case, at least in my case, I'll be doing it to where the scripts themselves would be in charge of changing their own HP. But there's, like I said, there's different possibilities. Just got to make sure to, and all this would take practice. All this would take experimentation. I learned how why you should keep protected, why you should keep public, just because I decided to try to make everything public and found out what happens. So, I hope I can teach things of what not to do. All right. Does anybody have any questions so far? Like further along? Okay. I guess we can go with trying to do a little like I'm gonna erase this all, and we could try to I could try to touch you guys a bit. All right. So does anybody remember what the top part is used for? Like the using? Like does anybody remember?
Yeah.
What
Tools.
The tools. Okay, good. Does anybody remember what a class is? Okay, what's a class?
It's the classification of each object.
Okay, good. So what if I want to make a variable that stores a switch? So first off, where would I put it? Like where would I put it in here?
Below the main,
Below the
public static practice script.
so below here?
Yeah.
Correct. All right. Also, what if I wanted to make it so Unity can see it, but no one can mess with it?
Is that that's the one below protected?
Okay. Do you remember what it's called?
No.
Do you remember?
Private.
There we go. So private. And what's the variable for switches?
Boolean.
There we go. All right. So I want to name it. What did I call the variable? Okay. Oh no, I want to make it so this variable is for if if the bullet hits the main character. So I didn't quite talk about it, but you want to make sure to keep your names concise and as small as possible as well, and explain what the variable does. Does anybody have any possible names we could call this? So like it's a variable where its switch turns on if the bullet hits the enemy, hits the main character or not.
B hit.
B hit?
Yeah, bullet hit.
Okay. That's good. Another thing I want to teach about, I kind of forgot, but as you can see, there are these dashers. Those are comments. Anytime there's a dash, anytime you see that, and good thing it's green, or you see that, and then below it, it's that. Those are called comments, and those are only for either just making comments or just completely negating the code that's in here. So you have like a bunch of code right here. These dashes make it so the code doesn't read it at all. Let's say you want to save a bunch of code, but you don't want the code to look at it or process it, you would put those. All right. So now, what if I want to make a variable that anybody can access that is a bunch of text? Like for
String.
okay, good. What about its what did I put for if I wanted to make it so everyone can access it?
Public.
There we go. Does anybody remember what I need to put? Like, what if I want to make it an array, a list of things? No worries, I didn't talk about much. It's the brackets in order to make it an array. So let's just say I wanted to make this for all the possible menu names. What would I call this? Do you have an idea, Isaiah?
menu names.
Okay, we can do that. Okay. So let's say I wanted to make a function to where this is what happens when the character is going to the next level. So we all know most of the time it is public. But what if I don't want it to bring about an integer, like a resulting number? What do I have to put afterwards to make it so it doesn't put out a number? You see an
Void.
example? Yes. Void. So, like I said, a name for a going to the next level. What should we call this function for going to the next level?
Next level.
Okay, we can call it that. So, another thing I want to make sure to let you know that these brackets are to close in resulting code. Like, everything that happens inside these brackets are everything that happens inside of this update. Same thing for, that's also what I kind of forgot, if-then statements. So, if-then statements, functions, we want to make sure, and loops are also one things as well. Want to make sure that we have the brackets and keep it inside, whatever happens inside of these brackets inside here. So, let's say we use one of our variables. So, if menu names equals title screen. And in this case, we made that a variable, so we want to put 0. And so we want to make sure that everything that we write inside of here, make sure that we want to make everything that's resulting, if it is the title screen, inside of here. So, does anybody remember, what if we want to grab the integer from another script, but protect a variable? Does anyone remember what kind of function we need to write for that? What is it?
A get function.
All right, cool. What do I put next after public?
Name.
There we go. It. How about a name? What would we call this one? We want to get the enemy status.
Enemy status.
I didn't talk about this, but that's a good idea. That's a good name, but we want to make sure to classify it as a get function. So whenever you're writing a get function, we put get first, then enemy status. So that was my fault for not saying that. Very good. So I hope through this, everyone kind of got a basic idea of how code is written and how code functions. A lot of code is basically just writing it over and over and over and over and over again. Of course, I always look back every once in a while to remember how to write things, basic things like how to make how to change the rotation of an enemy. I kind of forget, but a lot of times I remember how to do a lot of things, like instantiate. We're gonna make enemy new vector 3 0 0 0 transform dot rotation, and that's all because I remember how to write it all just by writing it over and over and over again. It's very tempting to just copy and paste. Don't do that. You're going to forget, and you're going to lose a lot of time just by trying to find the code and copy and pasting. So, if you're interested in programming, write as much as possible from memory. It was ended a lot earlier than I thought. Does anybody have any questions of just coding in general? No? All right. We're going to use this remaining time for possible free time. And what I hope to accomplish with this free time, we can work on the game if we want to further along, but we can also work on separate skills that we want to work on. Like we'll write it down, put design, art, slash writing. We'll put sound. And we'll put, what was the last one? Programming. So what I usually try to do is give a task for anybody that wants to further their understanding with this. For art, I can put like, last time I'll do the same thing, I draw a cat. And what I'll ask you to do is find a reference picture of a cat and just try to copy it and draw as much as possible. If somebody wants to design, like we could pick a random game like Mario Kart. And you would research what Mario Kart levels look like and then design a level based upon that. Like do a level design, like place where items would be and whatnot. Sound, what I did last time was just I made a little musical track with my mouth. I just literally just like came up with a beat and recorded it on Audacity. Anybody can just record it on the phone as well. Programming, if everyone has the computer, just practice writing code. Just practice writing like how to write code, like protected, int, blah, 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 blah. And so I suggest if people want to learn everything about making games to participate in things they're not comfortable with, to further along. But if no one wants to, that's fine. We can use the rest of our time to put more into this game. So choose what you want. I am myself going to further making a musical track because I do have one. But if anybody has any questions, anybody have any specifications of what they want to do, or if they feel like they got enough and they got stuff to do, they want to go, they can. But I suggest taking as much of the time as possible. So all right, I'll keep it recorded so everyone can feel like they're participating.
I'll do it back.
Okay, no problem. We'll watch your stuff. Whew.
Spencer, you think that for the prototype, it should just be like all the enemies one by one in order first?
They could be. That could be a showcase of just what this game shows. But I do suggest maybe making a possible possible formations, because a lot of shmups do have it to where usually most of the time it's not just one enemy at a time. Sometimes with the shmup you do have like one big enemy at a time because they're big enemies. So we can think of like the ruler as a big enemy where he'll come one at a time. But if it's just like, if we have it to where like a small enemy just comes one at a time, that although,
That's boring.
well, it can be boring, and we want to showcase not only like what the enemies do, but what the game feel is, what you're going to get from this. And so, what are you gonna get when a small enemy appears? And in this case, a lot of them. So you can show that this game is like not only what each individual does, what the small enemy does, but what danger they can present, and the danger is a lot of them. And the game feel can be like just the let's just say it's like the game feel is overwhelming. Like an example Raiden I showed, to where you want to kill all the enemies because if you don't, then they're gonna overwhelm you. And so if that's what the game feel is, then one at a time may not feel that way. But if let's say they do come in one at a time, but they come fast. Like you do have one enemy at a time, but they're coming from another one. We have this whole line. Here's the ruler, and then later on, like down the line, you have the pen. And so one at a time could work, but you have to make sure that it gives you whatever you're trying to feel, like whatever game feel you're trying to feel, whatever the goal is. Is that a good explanation, or? Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. Ooh. So I guess right now you can either work on the game, maybe designing of the enemy, or maybe work on a skill that you're not 100% on. Like you can further the animation you have, or you can
Should I like show what I want the waves to look like though?
the waves. Oh, that's okay. That's good. Good question. So, there's two possibilities. There's literally like you have your paper, you just turn it around this way, and you have like what wave 1 would look like. And so you would write, like let's just say I want to describe that each, like wave 1 is 3 enemies coming in one at a time. I would showcase it right here to show that they are a little, like they are separated, and to say that, to write right here come in one at a time, and make like, come up with a number, maybe like in the span of like, in span of 5 seconds or something like that.
Because I don't, like, the problem is that I don't want the enemies to all just be like sort of in one line.
Oh no, of course not.
Like, right, but also they can't, also it probably isn't right for them to all shoot at the exact same time.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, then you could create a wall that you have no way of getting around.
Oh, but that's it depends how you're making their shooting style.
Yeah, like maybe I should be like random within a few intervals. Seconds.
You could make inconsistent firing, but
Because if
that
they all come out in a line and they all see the player at the same time, they're all going to shoot at the same time.
if like for instance, there are a couple shooting styles. There's a couple shooting styles. You have like a straight shot, or a shot depending on where the player is, like a homing shot. So like if all of them are shooting at the same time,
Yeah.
then it will just look like this wave of bullets all heading in the same direction. And that's why in this setup, he would make them all come in at different times, to where they all fire in relatively the same rate, but they're coming in at slightly different moments,
Yeah.
so it doesn't feel as such. I've had this problem when I was making my SHMUP game, to where I did have to like space them out to where it doesn't feel like droning when they shoot at you. But most of the time, enemies don't all have the same firing pattern. To where if you have, like the small enemies do, but they come in at different moments to where they all look like they're firing at different rates. And these ones home at you. And then you have a ruler coming in to where it's just 3 at a time. To where you want to make it to where once they all, like they're coming in at such a constant rate that it doesn't feel like it's all, like you can start, you're so worried about dodging the bullets, you're not noticing that they're all firing like relatively in a basic pattern. It's like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And did that make sense of how to write it? It's like wave 1.
Do you have your SHMUP game on that computer?
Yeah, you want to check it out? Good thing I already downloaded it. Let me make sure that... okay, good. Did I download it? Aha, it's right there. Nah, it doesn't. Give me a sec.
Oh, you put it on Steam?
Yeah, it's on Steam. So in this game, I decided to make it to where I wanted to change it up. It still has the same kind of mechanics, but you have a charge-up shot instead. And it's not hold your button to fire as much as you can. I want to make each target, each firing precise. And I also want to showcase at the very beginning the point of it is like to make a shmup feel like an adventure game. Like Pocket Rocket made it to where you move it along, and this one I wanted to make it to where it still has a shmup of a constant moving level, but you can dictate where you go. Just as you were saying, all these enemies that are coming across are all do the same thing, but they come at different times. So sometimes they fire at the same rate, sometimes they don't. But my goal with this one, I wanted to make it to where you, one, wanted to kill enemies because they have like the power up, and I just got hit. Two, you want to fire at the bullets. That's because later on you have different elements to counteract their elements that they fire at you. Of course, this is very basic. And I wanted to make it so destroy the objects on the field to get health. Like that was the main goal too. So at the very beginning, I taught the players that, you have enemies that can hide inside some of these things. That doesn't happen again, but at the very beginning, I taught them that you fire at the bushes, you fire at the obstacles to get health. And so they know that that's how you get health.
What's the game called?
Sorcerer's Path. It's on Steam. It does not work on Mac.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like $2, I think. Or is it $3? I forgot which one. I'll see if I can get through the first boss. Wonder why there's no sound. The person who did the presentation, Julian, he did the soundtrack for this game. Oh, no, hold on, let me. Oh wait, yeah, I have a pause button. Wonder why the sound isn't working. That's unfortunate. He did such good music. It's not perfect. This game, we worked on it me and my team worked on it for 5 years.
Wow.
And yeah, it was tough because I couldn't put in the credits. You know how in the credits they have how many babies were born? Mm-hmm. Yeah, she had 2 babies by the time we were done with the game. We could have done that, but that's half the reason why it took so long because each time she had a child, we had to wait a little bit, and also we had to grabbing another person was another artist that could animate as well was also tough because we had someone that did all the concept art, but he couldn't animate, and he wanted to go because he couldn't get, like I couldn't pay him, and that's understandable. Like people want to get paid. I told him at the very beginning, this isn't paid. He's like, okay, that's cool, but he needed a paid job, and I was like, okay, that's fine. So it stalled the project. The artist who did she did all the backgrounds that stayed the entire time that had the kids. She couldn't quite do the animation herself either. So that's another reason why it took so long to complete. I eventually got to the point to where we worked on it for so damn long and so much time. We could have worked on the game forever, but we were like, enough. We have to just stop and just release this as is. And so this would be what's considered a borderline beta version of the game, but we released it nonetheless. This is the first boss right here. But the animation was done by I forgot his name, but crap. It wasn't a friend, so I don't remember. Like it was just someone I hired, but I can look it up. But nonetheless, he did all the animation, and I think he did a fantastic job. I actually had to do some myself. So you see how smooth and awesome the animation was, how like great it looks. He did the main character too, and then you'll see the distinct difference, and you can tell who did which one was mine, which one is his. This is my animation, and it's not the greatest, but I did what I could. And so the main point of this boss right here, you're facing the final boss at the very beginning, and you get creamed. I don't know if it's even possible to beat him at the beginning. I just deemed it impossible.
Past him?
Oh, no. The level stops when you're facing a boss.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. But I made it to where once you get to a certain point, you stop. Yeah, that's
I just got it.
Hmm?
I just got it.
Good luck. I can beat it in an hour and 45 minutes, but that's because I know where everything is. I know where everything is, what boss to face first, because there's 4 worlds you can go to, and each time you beat a world, you get the power just like Mega Man, and it makes other worlds easier, and you can do other things with the elements to make it easier, to make bosses easier. But and of course, the power-ups are hidden. You have to use different elements to gather them, and some of the levels are big, so you have to like look around to find them. But yeah, you can play with an Xbox controller as well if you have one. I think it's easier. But yeah, that was my take on a shmup. There's that. Ugh. But yeah, I'm actually curious to see how long it takes for a person that has no idea how to play to beat it. I will say, I don't know what happens if you okay, so an error of Flash. Flash had a horrible problem of garbage disposal. What code usually does is that if you like delete a game object, it usually like puts it in this like bin in the background to just like delete objects, right? To like delete data that's unusable. However, Flash had a horrible problem that since like I can show you. Ah, damn it, I can't. But my code was like 18,000 lines long, and that's one script among like 80 script files. So it's a lot. It's huge. And so what you have to do, Flash had a horrible garbage disposal problem, to where if you had, let's just say, an enemy array, and like 1 through we'll say 83, and that's like of all the possible arrays that could be. Inside here is the game object, right? And so let's just say you get rid of the game object in here, but somewhere down here, this enemy script right here referenced its HP like once. So even though you deleted the game object and everything that's in here, by the time you get to the very bottom of the line of code, the fact that you reference an HP and put it in another variable right here means that the code thinks that still exists. One little thing, which is the HP variable. So it'll keep that data. It will destroy all the other habits. And you're thinking, oh, it's just one little variable. That's fine. Like, it's not going to be much. When you have a giant game and it has a bunch of those tiny things, it's going to clog the game up way later down the ride. And what happens is, at the very end of the game, there's the final boss that just shoots a shit ton of bullets at you. And by itself, it works fine. But if you play the game all the way through and encounter every single possible bullet that could be fired, the fact that it has a tiny bit about that trace data makes it so by the time you got to this boss, everything slows down because there's just too much. Game crashes. I don't think that's going to happen to you because that's only if you play it all the way through and never stop the game. I doubt that'll happen. But it sucked. I hated it. I had to make sure to delete every single possible reference to every single possible thing inside every single possible array, and it was just a nightmare. Unity has a different garbage disposal program, which I don't understand 100%, but you have to just keep on coding and hope it works, and then find out in the end. Or look it up. Anyways, all right. I'm going to start working on like a bit of music myself. If like anybody else can work on other things, either on the game or other possible suggestions I gave. Where is it? I hope I put it down here. Oh, did you want some did you want to work on the design of the game, or did you need some help? Like,
No, I generally got it. I have to do homework a
oh,
lot. That's fine.
oh, actually, if you want to do homework in here, that's fine too. Because I know school's hard to catch up on. I just want to make sure we utilize as much the full time here as much as possible. Like I said, if you have somewhere to go and you want to leave early, that's fine too. I'm going to be here the entire time. There we go.
So does this end at 1 or?
It ends at 1, yes.
Okay. So
Mhm.
we have to leave at 1.
At 1, at around like 12:55, I have to start
Okay.
packing up. Yeah. Only one. I don't know when exactly, but at some point in the next month, there is one class or something that comes in on a Tuesday. I don't know which one, but I know one of them. So I want to make sure too that it's all fine for that. I wonder why the sound is not working. Is it that? Oh, I guess it. Oh, well, it's bad. Actually, it's not fine. I'm working on music. I don't want to.
Working on music, but you can't hear it.
I can't hear that. How are you gonna make it work? Then that means I'm gonna turn off the projector and unhook it. Oh, come on. Yeah, it was doing that. Fine. And now it's still not working. Give it to me. Yeti, and the speakers are real-time audio. Oh, come on. Okay, let me close it. Okay, let's see if it's if it's just Audacity. What the
What
hell?
have you been working on that?
That Sorcerer's Path game?
Oh no, your music.
Oh, that's just I just started the last game, the last meeting. The track that was for that the horror game that was at the I did that myself. That took like 2 or 3 hours to make, but all I did was just grab the piano sound sample, 2 piano sound samples, and just kind of change the pitches of each one of the one for each beat, like dun 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 dun, like just do that. And that was my first ever piece of music I've ever made. And so now I'm trying to get into the habit of sounding it out first, because I have songs in my head that I have sounded out as well, but I want to sound out the different instruments that overlay it, because you got to know what the beats. One song I have, there's just a bass song like doom doo 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 doo, and you got to make that and then copy it a whole bunch throughout the whole entire song, and then you got to make the piano like dun dun dun, and you got to sound it out, and so that's what I'm attempting to do next. But I have such little time to pour into any kind of project. I have a book to write, I have a game I want to make, now I want to get into music, and then I want to learn how to play guitar, and so too many creative projects, not enough time. I just wonder why this isn't working.
You guys want to try some of my games?
Oh yes, your posted on the Game Design channel, Game Design Club channel. In general, yeah, sure. I saw. What program do you use to make them?
It's called Hopscotch. I've been
Hopscotch.
using it for years already, but it has no text, just blocks. So that's that kind of code.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's what the program is called, Hopscotch, or is that the game you made?
No, that's the app.
Oh, that's the app. Is it on the phone or is it on the?
It's only on Apple devices, so like iPhone and iPad.
Oh,
Not-
oh,
yes.
wow. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's definitely good to help with the beginning of it. And I'm guessing that you just press a button and it kind of just makes the thing, it writes the code for you, or do you have to actually write code?
Here, I can show you.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead. I'm curious.
So it's basically this. You press create, right?
Okay.
And then there's like a bunch of objects.
Okay, yeah.
And then like if you want a text object, and then there's some presets here,
Uh-huh.
so I can like.
Wow.
Yeah. And then there's a parameter. That's actually new. They updated.
Okay,
So
okay,
they have
yeah, yeah.
parameters. They have comments, which are also new.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of new things. that
Wow,
they
so
did.
it is basically
Yeah.
programming, but you press buttons instead.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have these programs on for beginners. Like I don't know if you heard of it called an RPG Maker.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, yeah, that's really good as a starter program for learning anything that's to do with making games too. Because what they do instead is you create like an event, which is basically a script file, and once you click that event, it brings you to a menu that has all these different like parameters to it. And inside here is what you would call the script file. And so in the first line right here, you would like double click it, or you would like right here, like enter new command, and then it would bring up to another menu that has all the different possible kinds of commands you could make. Like if you want to make it if-then a conditional branch they call it, but that's an if-then statement. And then like let's say you click it, it goes back here, and it automatically makes the if-then statement right here. And if you click on that, like it puts it in a box. And if you click on that, it gives you like a menu of like possible variables, conditions you put on it. If a number is like if a number variable is like do you want it greater than, less than, equal to, like all that stuff. So like you would put in the parameters, it would just be nothing but button presses to make it so you don't have to write anything. You just have to, you're just practicing the logic of it all. We did that for our first game. That's where I wanted to do that so Stephanie had a basic idea of how coding works. I kind of would like to go back to it because like we get new members that have no idea how to code, and this would be a good spot. But like I think because it's very limited, that's the one big problem. Guess what kind of games you can make an RPG Maker? RPGs, Final Fantasy looking RPGs, top-down stuff, and that's great. But we want to expand a little bit. Like I don't think new game designers want to keep on making RPGs for eternity. That'd be boring. And it's incredibly not versatile with extracting out there from nothing but turn-based. Unfortunately, I don't know any other thing when it comes to the beginner programs such as that. But yeah, it's nice. It's nice.
Spencer?
Yeah, what's up?
I ever played the game Baba Is You?
Baba Is You? Nope.
Wait, look at, I have it on.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Thank you, I really like it. But this is how the game works. So it says wall is stop, so I can't move. So then
Okay.
you turn off wall is stop, and now I can go through
Oh.
it. And you have to win. So there's the word flag, and then is and win. So I go over to it, and I do this. Bam! Now I can win the level.
Wow. That's
So-
basically teaching. That's just logic in itself.
So now I'm the wall because wall is you,
Okay.
and the flag is stop. But if I turn that off,
Turn it off. Okay, flag is no longer stop, and you have to.
but if I do the same thing over here, Baba is win.
There is no Baba. So
There is no
it
Baba
wouldn't-
here,
so
so
you-
it's not gonna work.
So you have to go down like wall. You can make wall is win. Oh, wait, no. You have to make flag is win.
Well, I can do walls
Oh,
because
and
I'm
then
wall.
you. Wow.
Isn't this cool? I like this one. So, the unfortunate part of this game is that there's a limited amount of levels, and I beat all of them already.
Mhm.
But so we have water is sink. So if we push the rock into here, the water
Rock
goes
is
away.
push. Okay, okay.
So and flag is one, but you can't get over to this.
Okay, so,
So-
you have to make rock is win.
Rock is wind, and now I can just go over to the rock.
Wow.
Right?
Just to programming it sounds fun.
It eventually gets like really complicated. Like we go over to one of these levels, like eventually it goes to like lava is weak. So if I run into anything, I instantly die.
Okay.
So let's turn that off.
Okay.
And skull is defeat, and I guess we have to do. I just turn this over to skull is you. There you go. And skull is defeat. So skull is you and skull's defeat makes the skulls go away. 'Cause they're
Okay,
defeated.
gotcha.
So rock is push, and I need to can't get through here. So I need
so
to
you
turn.
would have to be rock.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although there isn't.
Rock is weak.
Yes, rock is weak. That's it. Oh nope, I can't do that because if nothing is you, then you can't do anything.
Yeah,
with
yeah,
me,
yeah.
You pretty much lose.
Okay, so you would push is down there, so it's basically pointing up. Yeah.
And.
Oh. Wow,
Is
I
that
really
cool?
like that. I want to get that.
Yeah, I think it's $15 on Steam. Let me show you.
Nice.
Yep.
And I saw you playing Elden Ring.
Yep.
I can't play those games.
Yeah,
Good
they're-
games.
Yeah, I feel that.
The background behind that game is that it was built in a game jam.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then-
yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh, I
and then
do.
won.
We do give the possibility of game jams. We would have to plan it way ahead of time, and we'd have to talk to them because they have had setups to where people stayed here overnight for like a day for like a game sesh, and but game jams usually last. Ooh, I'm streaming this, shouldn't it? But the game jams usually last 3 day a weekend. So we would have, like I said, we would have to plan it. But I am totally up for that. For making a game jam, like for starters, I can still code it all, and we could try to come up with something. We could just participate in one, but that's totally up to you guys. Like we would have to find one as well, and I had participated in one before to where we had to. Let me see if I can find it. We had to make a. Have anybody seen those super old green screen Nokia phones? They're like bricks.
Yeah.
And yeah, we had to make a game that would work on a Nokia phone. Yeah. So let me see if I can find it. So it's I didn't do any coding. I actually just designed it all, and it was fun. First game I had to do that I didn't have to code shit. It was like freeing. Kia game jam. What website? There we go. Submissions. Let's see if I can look inside submissions. Or let me just type in. Oops, maybe that's not how you spell it. Or maybe it's. How do you spell Minotaur? That's how you spell Minotaur? Okay. So, I guess I'll have to, I'll be a bit to find it. Where are you? Oh, wait. Okay, that's what I can do. Just keep on going down, just keep on going down. What? God damn it. Okay, so that's all the games, and I just need to look for it. There it is. Let go. There we go. Yeah, this was made in a week, so we had a lot more time. But it's just a basic maze game where you only could use 2 colors, so I actually helped with sprite art as well. And they had a theme, but you didn't have to follow it. And this game, I just made it to where, I just designed it to where the Minotaur is walking around. If there's sound, you could hear if it's next to you. You just have to find the end. And the fun thing about this...
You're not
Huh?
showing it on the screen.
Oh, oops. Ah. What? Oh, it's because I disconnected. Damn it. Is it on? There we go. Sorry about that. Oh, he found me. Let's see him walk by. Yep. He's hunting you the entire time. And so, if there was sound, you could hear him stomping nearby and then hear him roar when he finds you. And you have to hope not to get caught, and I'm dead. But yeah, with these games, they would be of varying quality in game jams. And like I said, most of the time you're following a prompt. They just give you a, this one was, the secret prompt was on off. And I just really wanted to make this, so I told the guy, like, can we really make this? I really want it. He's like, okay, cool, whatever. But it's better to follow the prompt. Don't do what I did. Because people will like it a lot more if you follow a prompt and see what you did with it. So, like I said, they're varying between 3 days to a week. And if we ever wanted to do it, a week is a lot more flexible. We could just space it out to where we only work on it like 6 hours a day instead of crunching like 12 hours for like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to try to make it work. But that's just a sneak peek of what game jams are. Does anybody have any desire to do a game jam or participate in one?
I could.
All right.
Sure.
Okay. We can look up.
If you go on the website,
That's. Yep. That's the very one that. That's the one that I that's the that's what it was. Yes, on itch. We would have to. Oh, okay. 6 months. The nearest one starts in last 17 days. That's not that bad.
What about the one that starts in 11 days?
Tool jams. Yeah, but it's a tool jam.
What's the
We don't
difference?
make games, we make tools. Okay,
Oh,
that's
okay.
something there. Starts in 2 months. Yowie game jam? Well, that's 2 months. That's actually. Let's see what this is. Hey, if you want to make games, you're going to make any type of game. 2 months game jam is dedicated to make games featuring male identified characters in queer relationships. I mean, if someone wants to write that story. I have made a story game before where it's nothing but text and you just type which thing you want to do. So that's not too. It wouldn't have much game design. You could make it to where when you have a conversation happens, a mini game happens. Like that could be a lot of fun. But if we'll consider that. Oh boy, 4 hours. Let's go. Visual novels and story-based games. Okay, that's in 2 months as well. I'll further look into it, and if anybody has any ideas of what specific kind of game they want to try to work on, or just doesn't care, then I can see. It is now 12:55, and so whoever's watching this on recording, we're ending it now. So I'll say goodbye to you guys.